Good morning and welcome to The Path of Me. I'm your host, Wendy Hutchinson. I have the beautiful Amanda Lombardo in the house. She's a makeup artist. She is a motivational public speaker, a teacher of makeup artistry, doing both private and public events, group events. And she also is the co founder of the CNC Collective, which is a networking organization. So, welcome this morning, Amanda. Thanks for
Thank
being
you
with
for
us.
having me. Thank you.
It's such an honor to have you here. I'm so curious to find out a little bit of the backstory about what led you to makeup artistry.
Well, I was it was more family driven, family focused. I was a new mom and I was working in the corporate world, working 60 hours a week and had my son in daycare and
Wow.
he kept getting sick in daycare. And it wasn't just a simple cold, it was things that required antibiotics. And
Mhm.
I sat down with my husband and I said, we need to do the math here because I feel a calling to be at home.
Mhm.
And that means being a full-time mom and just staying at home. But, it was my concern that I was going to lose my identity in the
Yeah.
process professionally. And it was something that I had to really, really focus on addressing. Um, because I felt like that was part of my identity for so long. I've worked since I was 13.
Wow.
So we did the math and we decided that I could stay home and pull him out of daycare. And for about a year, I didn't do anything. And then I met someone who was in the makeup artistry business and she asked me if I would ever consider doing it. I said, I thought maybe. And I had no idea how to even apply mascara at this time. I had no idea what it entailed to become a makeup artist. And so she took me under her wing and taught me, and it was phenomenal. I loved being with other women, and it was great because I could make my own hours. So
Right.
that's how it
Wow.
started.
So you have since kind of built your business and you have a really different philosophy around beauty and makeup. So, can you share that with us and tell us a little bit what your core values and definition is around beauty and how you define it?
Of course. So for me, beauty isn't defined by the latest trend. It isn't defined by looking youthful. For me, it's about looking well rested because you are well rested and you are working within yourself, and that shines from within. And for me, I like to say that beauty isn't vanity, it's self care. And it took me a long time to learn that myself. And what I found was that when women were sitting in my chair, they would say things immediately that were self deprecating. They'd ask me if I could, take care of, minimize wrinkles or hide things that they felt ashamed by. And for me, it painted a picture of, we all need healing, right? And
Mhm.
beauty is healing and vice versa. I wanted women to feel beautiful about themselves with or without makeup. And I feel like self care is so important. And it's not just having the latest skincare, it's drinking your water, it's, taking your walks and just doing the work within yourself.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I've seen such a beautiful evolution, just in you personally since I've met you so many years ago. It's just been so amazing to witness, and I'd love to explore a little bit about how your philosophy and how your relationship with yourself has changed because you are so empowered and so inspirational to the people around you. So take me through kind of the process that you went through of self-discovery because you have certainly become so beautifully bold and so inspiring to the people who are just kind of watching your journey unfold.
Thank you. I get a little emotional just thinking about it and what you said. Thank you. That was so beautiful because I feel really empowered now. There, and I have come a long way since we
Mhm.
met. And for me, it was just, at the age of 27, I thought I had a lot going on for me. I was, in college. I had a really great job. Um, I was engaged to someone who I thought was the person for me. And then I just hit rock bottom. And I thought there was something going on in me that seemed to be a cycle of just toxic events, and I couldn't pinpoint it. And at the end of the day, I realized it was me. I was in my own way, and I was repeating these just things that were, I don't know, I just felt like self-sabotaging. So when I would get to a point of success, then I would self-sabotage. And I realized those were things I was doing all my life. It was just surrounding myself with people who I knew at the time didn't truly care about me, and a lot of the relationships were very superficial. Um, and even with myself, I really it took me hitting rock bottom to understand that I needed to build a stronger foundation in my life, and being present in the moment with my family, with the people that I love, that was my real truth. And once I anchored myself in that position, I knew that this is where I needed to be, in that state of love, not just for other people, but for myself first. Integrity is really important to me,
Mhm.
and living that life of integrity and just boldness and just standing strong in my convictions, like that really helped me. You and I talked once about an issue that I had, and you asked me, what do you think's going on? And out of, you know, and then this whisper came in my ear, and it was ego. The ego is the enemy a lot of times, and I
Mhm.
thought, oh my gosh, my ego is really just stunting my growth. And once I decided that that was no longer going to be a part of who I was, the growth was just phenomenal.
It accelerated your growth, I think. And also, it feels like just that awareness when you were 27, just recognizing the patterns, because that's so pivotal, is to see our patterns, because patterns repeat until we heal the things that they're trying to show us, right? So, how beautiful that at such a young age you were able to really dial in and recognize the patterns. And then it's kind of a little bit of, um, it's a little bit of a process to figure out how to work our way out of the patterns, because that does require sometimes just letting go of toxic people in our life, even if they've been in our lives forever. That doesn't mean that they're right for us, right?
Right.
So, how incredible that you were able to kind of lead your way and have the, intuition and ability to really follow your own compass and follow those nudges and whispers.
Yeah, it was definitely a gift in itself, just with the realization and the amount of weight that was lifted off my shoulders was so palpable. I could literally feel it. I was driving one day to work, and I was not even thinking about anything. And I was just, I don't even, I feel like my mind was just blank for a reason. And there was just this space. And then all of a sudden, I just felt this immense relief. And I thought, well, there it is. That's what I've been searching for my entire life. And it
Wow.
was just, I mean, so great. Like I think I had to pull over at one point. I was going over the Galveston Bridge, so I couldn't pull over there. Um, but when I just felt so grateful in that moment, and it was it was definitely a turning point in my life.
That's so huge. One thing that you're so talented at is bringing people together. You're like a connector. You're that person who can bring this person together with this person and make a connection and allow them to flourish together. That's one of your beautiful gifts. So tell me what inspired you to create CNC Collective, and tell me a little bit about that. I know you're located in Houston, Texas, but you are looking to expand to other areas, right?
Yes. Connecting people is my passion. I love to see people thrive, especially when I know they have talent and that can be just such a great resource for people, but also to help them be successful. And the reason why I started the CNC Collective was because I was networking quite often before the pandemic, and I wasn't seeing a lot of return on investment. Usually, when you network, it entails paying the membership fee and then going to a place where you then have to maybe purchase from the location that you are having the meeting in, say lunch, coffee, dinner, which is fine, but over time it adds up. And I was finding that I was having to make connections with people, and then a year later, then they were finally saying, "Hey, I'd like to see maybe we can work together." It's a lot of work. A year is a lot of work for someone who's paying an average of $500 to $600 a year to several different networking groups, right? And my whole thing is I thought, I would really love to just be able to help people make genuine connections. And so whenever we have meetings, they're carefully curated to where if I know that I have one person in this specific industry, I'm going to make sure that that one person is the only, say, realtor in the group. And I know that we can't be all things to all people. So even if that one realtor is in that group, I mean, still she may make connections. It's up to her, he or she. But my whole point to this is that I just wanted people to see that it's okay to attend a networking event and not have to pay, an enormous amount to see a return on investment. I wanted to be able to give people that gift of growing their business.
One thing that I love about you and your profits,
Thank you.
you have such a beautiful light about you, and you are so genuine in wanting to be in service and wanting to help people. And you do create these great events. I know that you've done some uh, special events that I went to. One of them was through the Indigo Rose Project. Tell
Yes.
me a little bit about that. What inspired
So,
you to create that event? I know you brought a bunch of inspiring speakers who had overcome adversity together.
yeah, that was such a great event. When we met there at
Mhm.
first, and I was blown away by the attendance for one. I didn't realize how much women needed to hear a message of self-love. I mean, that's always been a very popular message, but I wanted to get down to the nitty-gritty. I wanted people to really understand what it's like living in a world of where social media is so present, and a lot of people see the filtered images, not just on advertisements, but on different apps that are available for people to alter their own images. So it was just painting this unattainable image that people were comparing themselves to. And not just social media, but just the way that life is now, I guess. So Indigo Rose Project it started out as a nonprofit group, but then I quickly realized that it wasn't really going in the right path and I needed to change that up. What it was is as a makeup artist, I was giving back to the community. And my mother's name is Rose, and indigo is the colors, two colors of the ribbons that are self awareness or self. It's for child abuse awareness and domestic abuse awareness. It's purple and blue, and when you mix those two colors together, you get indigo. And my mother is a survivor of both, and I wanted to give something back to her because she has really healed in her process in her life, and I really wanted to kind of honor that. So I again found that when women sat in my chair, I'd find out a lot of things about them. And I thought, I think women need this. They need to hear that they're not alone. So when I started the event for Indigo Rose Project, it then turned into Mind, Body, and Soul because I feel like that just captures everything that we are about. So that's why I started the event for many reasons, but basically because I wanted women to know that they're not alone in their fight for for all things beauty, for all things balance, and just knowing that we have that in common as human beings.
Well, it's almost, I think, for women a fight for ourselves. It's a fight to
Sure.
find ourselves, right? A fight to overcome adversity. And it's so easy to get overwhelmed in our lives trying to meet all these expectations that are placed on us. People are so programmed and conditioned by our family culture and our religious backgrounds and our social circles and social media. We lose ourselves in that space. We don't really know who we are because we're always trying to put on a mask or show up as something that someone else expects of us. And it's so hard for us to fully express who we are and stand in our own light. So I love that you're doing this work to really empower people. And I have to highly recommend Amanda because I have been in a private session with her, just a one-on-one, to just learn more about skincare and makeup application. And you know you don't think about these things, but if you're looking to be your best self and feel your best self, it's really great to talk to the experts, about um, nurturing and self-care. Talk to the experts about beauty. Talk to the experts about health and wellness, because all of those components create who we are. And I just think you're such a gift.
Thank you.
So I want to encourage people, if we're in the Houston, Texas area. So Amanda is available to assist anybody who might be inspired to either work with her individually for a special event or a headshot photo shoot, or maybe a family portrait kind of day. But I know you also can do so much more in your business. But she can be. Give us your web address, Amanda, so people can find you.
It's Amanda Lombardo Beauty.com.
So I'll put that in the comments below or to the side of
Thank
our
you.
video so people can reach out to her. And I'm also really interested in this aspect of you overcoming adversity, because so many of us have adversity in our lives, and it comes in all shapes and forms. And you were speaking earlier to this point of having this self awareness that there was this just real toxicity in the way you were relating to yourself and the things you were saying to yourself and the people you were surrounding yourself with. So, what did you do with that information? Because knowledge and awareness is the first step, but then you have to do something to shift and change that environment, right? For
Sure.
yourself. So, how did you approach that?
Well, I had to acknowledge all the things that were again, self-sabotaging. I had to sit down with myself, so to speak, and say, what's happening on a day-to-day basis? And one of the main feelings that came up that just sat on me, just felt like such an oppression, was guilt. And it was because I knew that I wasn't living or treating myself in the best manner. And I just, I was, the guilt really plagued me from day to day. I'd wake up and I would think, well, I didn't do X, Y, and Z yesterday. And X, Y, and Z were really important things. So I just felt stagnant. I felt like I was just not getting anywhere. And I really had to just kind of dig deep and figure out how to overcome those things. And once I started doing those things, meditating, praying, writing it down, journaling, then I started to realize, this isn't who I am. And it just, doing those things on a day to day basis that were feeding my soul just really helped.
That's so huge. That's so huge. I think one of the hardest things for all of us is to really look in the mirror and realize that everything in our lives is being created by us.
Yes.
That's a really tough realization. When I had that moment myself, I was like, it just really stopped me in my tracks. It's like I couldn't hide anymore. I couldn't blame anyone anymore. I couldn't project myself, my wounds and uh, issues out on anyone anymore. There was kind of this reckoning
Yes.
where I had to own it. And man, that's a courageous moment, isn't
Yeah,
it?
totally. Owning it is where it's at. I mean,
Owning.
if you once you do that, it's not so easy after that, but it's knowing that you're owning it and you're taking responsibility. That's that's where the real magic happens.
Yeah, and I also found that there's for all of us we have those relationships that challenge us, whether it's a relative, relationship with a close relative, or it's a relationship with a friend, or even a spouse, or a work relationship. We always have those relationships that really challenge us, right?
Yes,
And we start to resist them. Like I would get physically sick knowing I would have to see somebody,
sure.
like an event or something, but it's like something we're required to attend. And I would literally feel sick about it. And all this time, I'd be projecting this anger and this resistance and this almost hatred towards people who were so difficult in my life. And then I realized that those are actually projections of how I feel about myself.
Yeah, wow.
Like not hatred for myself, but just judgment.
Yes.
Judgment was like such a difficult thing to overcome for me. And did you find that to be true also?
Absolutely. I felt a lot of times when I start makeup classes or I have events, I actually tell women that it's a no judgment zone in this space and that we are allowed to be who we want to be. And I feel like that really sets the tone, not just for them, but for myself.
Yeah.
And I found that when I started to talk to people, say other moms, and I was just living in my truth and not having any judgment towards them, the ease of conversation was so much greater. And I feel like they sensed that I wasn't judging them. I wasn't judging myself. And I also wasn't dimming my light for them.
Right.
It was who I was. giving them permission to be who they wanted to be.
Mhm.
And it was such, I've had such wonderful relationships once that started happening. A lot of times I was making friends and relationships with people by bonding through trauma. And I found that that was not a good thing, because we were becoming each other's punching bag, so to speak. And I just thought, this isn't the life I want. This isn't who I want to surround myself with. I need to find people who are taking the steps to heal or have been healed. And I actually didn't even need to find them. They just came to me, and I came to them because it was already present. That healing, and to meet and talk to someone and no longer have that scenario where we're trauma bonding is so beautiful. It's so light, and it's really incredible how my life has changed in that sense.
It's so powerful, the people we surround ourselves with. Everybody that we invite in
Yes,
has an impact. Everyone's bringing their vibration and lending their energy to ours in a beautiful exchange. And we have to be so mindful of what we invite in and who we
yes,
invite in energetically, because there are people who deplete you and there are people who lift you up. So I really go organically towards the people who energetically lift me. I don't want to get on the phone with someone who's going to complain for an hour and drain
right.
me. I've been there and done that many, many times. And the irony is when you actually set the boundary, because boundaries do reflect self love, is when we have the courage to really set boundaries and not tolerate those toxic behaviors or those draining conversations. It's so interesting because the person who you cut off is so offended, so angry. Like, how
Yeah,
dare you? You're the problem in this relationship. I've
right.
had that happen many times. And it's really a powerful place when you can love yourself so much and know yourself so much that you can step back and just recognize what's happening and just allow it to organically fall away and just put love into it, just send it off with love and know that that person is just not for me anymore. I've
That's right.
outgrown that, and I need to create space for more of the things and the people and the energies that are going to help me to become the best version of me, and that's not one of them. Right.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, setting boundaries is so powerful. And one of the things that I get for people that are close to me will say, well, I don't have anyone else to talk to about this. And then I have to gently remind them that there are things that they are in control of. And attitude is a great way to correct that. And also, like I said, acknowledging what's really going on. Why are these things still happening in your life? And I like to say that to them because it really wakes them up and they think, wow, she does care about me. But and then they start to realize that these are things that they're patterns in their life that they need to change.
Yeah, I found that I was in a pattern of doing too much or showing up too much for people
Yes,
when there wasn't the same reciprocity.
that's right.
So then you start to get a little resentful because now you're allowing this person to really take up a lot of your time and
Yes,
energy. And their circumstance isn't getting better because they're not self aware and you're getting more resentful. So the boundaries are just so, so important and self awareness, right? Around what is healthy for ourselves
yes.
and being able to say gently or not so gently, this isn't working for us
This isn't
anymore.
working.
You know,
Let's not try this again.
right. What I love
Mhm.
about you is you're so great at, and I think it's because you are so authentically yourself. You create this sacred and safe space for people to really open up. When people feel there's no judgment, people really do start to just tell you their life story. I'm sure. Is it like being a hairstylist where people are in your chair and pretty soon you're just like, wow, this is a lot of information coming out right
It it is, and I don't mind. I like to steer in a direction of positivity and really just helping people to understand again that there are certain things you can control and things that you can't control. And it's up
now?
to them on how they're going to face it.
Yeah.
So for me, when I start to it's interesting because when I actually go to a hairstylist, it's the other way around. The hairstylist will tell me about their
Oh,
their
it's like in
life.
reverse.
It
Usually the
is.
person in the chair is speaking, but you're the one receiving and they're
Yes,
talking to you about their stuff.
yes, it is. And it's okay. I'm used to it. And I genuinely care and want to hear their story because a lot of times it's been great lately because it's been people who have overcome adversity and people who are so strong now and anchored and grounded.
There's
Um,
nothing more inspiring than hearing these stories, right? That's what I love about, a lot of the guests on my show, included, have overcome a lot of adversity in your life. And it's really, really, I think, impactful for people to hear stories of people who are doing their inner work and not being kind of sandbagged by their trauma.
right.
People who have had the courage to really sit with themselves and be like, this was an experience I had, but it doesn't have to define who I am
That's right.
or keep me from stepping into my power, right?
Yeah, definitely. I will tell you that one of the things that have happened to me recently is that I've connected with people from my past, and it was again the feeling started to kind of creep up on me of guilt because of who I was back then when they knew me,
Hmm.
and I knew that I didn't have to try to show them I had changed because it it's apparent, just in seeing me by just who I am. And I feel like sometimes when people meet back up with their past, they feel this strong urge to say, "Well, I'm not who I was anymore." And that may be true, but I'd like for people to know you don't have to prove that. If you
No,
have healed and you have changed, you don't have to go back to that person and say, "Well, I'm not who I was anymore."
your vibration speaks for itself.
That's right.
Your energy, how you carry yourself, who you show up as. That's all that they're going to feel that, right?
Totally.
And we should never apologize for who we were because that was part of our evolutionary process.
Correct.
That didn't that if we had not been through that, we wouldn't be the women that we are today.
Yeah, I firmly believe that. I mean, I'm living proof.
We're so much stronger. We're so much more aligned. We're so empowered. And that really comes from just accepting fully all of it. The good stuff, the bad stuff, the light, the successes, the shameful parts. We are all of it. We were that created our full empowered self.
Right.
And so I love that you've reached that space. And I found that once we start to do our own healing work, it starts to radiate and ripple out and kind of affect people in our lives. Have you found that to be true?
Yes. It's one of those things like with my husband specifically. His job is incredibly stressful, and he 2 years ago decided that he was going to join a martial art class, and I encouraged him to do so, and he didn't need my permission, But I know that he is always so thoughtful, and he talked to me about it because he thought, well, this is going to take up some time in the evening and maybe, a couple of hours on the weekend. And I didn't have to say anything. Like, he just instantly knew. I didn't want him to feel guilty for taking some time for himself. And I just projected that. I just put that out there. And I didn't even have to tell him, this is for you. This is a gift for yourself, and to be able to have an outlet. And he's kept it up for 2 years, and he is a better man to himself in so many ways. Weeks can be really stressful. He's in the healthcare field. So, as you know, that's people who have been in the healthcare field, it's been really stressful for them. So, but he has just, his resilience has been incredible. And my son, especially, has been very resilient through this time. And he hasn't missed a beat. He's still very social. He hasn't felt any kind of angst or anxiety through these last the year and a half that we have all experienced. And it's just been, I feel, because of me. I'm gonna take the
Absolutely.
credit here.
Absolutely. I think when you're grounded, you create a foundation. You create a foundation for your family. The stronger we become, the more we can anchor our energy and anchor health, wellness, a healthy mindset, model uh, a way of being that spills out and impacts the people around us. And then they start to notice that and then start to organically entrain and organically go, wow, this is,
Yeah,
because people, even though they're not really commenting or they're not really coming straight out and telling you to your face, wow, whatever you're doing, keep doing it because you're so inspiring. Or you don't always hear that, but we all have impacts on our families and our friends and our circle and communities, just by showing up as who we are. So why not try to be the highest and best version of ourselves instead of be that person that's self-depreciating and critical and judgmental. One of the hardest things I think is realizing that maybe we're a little afraid of our greatness. Maybe we're a little afraid to step into our power. And that's what keeps us from really embracing who we are. Because we are so much more than we realize, right?
absolutely. I learned that early on, actually, that, as I said earlier, once I started to excel in either the career that I was in or a relationship, I was self-sabotaging. And it was the commitment to keep it up. And I was thinking, why do I feel so much energy to have to keep this up? And sometimes people might say that that's imposter syndrome, but for me, I felt like I deserved it. I just didn't know why I was being plagued with the guilt. And then I realized that was those were things I had to shed.
Yes.
And once that happened, it was so much easier to be able to commit to myself and show up every day, like you said.
Yeah. How did you shed and release that guilt? That's a big one for women. That feeling of not, God, gosh, I didn't do enough. How did you
Um,
let that go?
yeah, well, I know this really great energy healer by the name of Wendy Hutchinson. Do you know her? She's amazing. Yeah, I mean, you were the catalyst to
Oh,
helping me heal, and I didn't even know where to start. So meeting you, I mean, I have to say I'm your
you're gonna make
biggest
me
fan.
cry.
I'm gonna make myself cry just thinking about you. And it just, the year that you worked with me, just it was so incredible. And not even knowing, it was almost like that time that I was driving over the Galveston Bridge, and I had that feeling of just the heaviness being lifted in the process of everything that you and I went through, and you helping me to heal. That was so incredible for me because I would just be sitting, and out of nowhere, I would just feel just the knowing. I just knew that my life was changing and my path was really going in the right direction.
Well, thank you
So
so much for that, Amanda.
thank
I
you.
didn't pay her to say that. That's a surprise.
She totally didn't pay me. Didn't just, this
Well,
is not
one of the things I think
sponsored.
is when you become more aligned, as you shed and release all of those layers of things that aren't you anymore, your life path accelerates because you become so aligned with your truth of who you are. You start to really pour all that energy into this column of who you are instead of having it kind of fractalized and out there all over the place. And so that was so beautiful to witness and walk beside you on that journey, to see you come organically, just more and more. It's really, you were just making choices that were more aligned, right? With
Yes.
with who you are, and really accepting who you are. Looking in the mirror and going, that woman is badass. I love her.
Yeah,
That's a huge moment for
that's
us when we
exactly
can,
how it happened.
embrace ourselves and really love ourselves completely, and really understand that a lot of the stuff that has kind of created this drag or kind of weighed us down, a lot of it is not even a product of our core values at all. It was just things, beliefs, and expectations and social programming that we assimilated and took on as our own. It wasn't really resonant with who we are and what I love about you and all the other people who are really stepping into their lane and stepping into fully into their power and alignment is for every person who's doing that and has the courage and the strength and the love for themselves to do it, you become like this beacon and bright light that turns on for the world. You just being you, Amanda Lombardo, walking through this world, are impacting every person you interact with energetically. You're impacting that grocery clerk, that waiter or waitress at the restaurant, you know, the person who is at the bank or the teller. Any human interaction. As we become more and more aligned and more empowered and more anchored into who we are and why we're here, and we start doing the work that, both professionally but also personally, that resonates fully with who we are, you become unstoppable. Like, Amanda, the sky is the limit for you. Anything is possible. And you're so great about having ideas and actually executing them. There's a world of us out here who have great ideas, and we're like, yeah, that's a great idea, and then it never comes to fruition. But you're so good at really making things happen. I sure admire that about you. Is that something that you've always been able, is that like an innate thing that you've always been able to do, or is that something that has evolved with your own personal evolution?
Well, I'm a pretty strong-willed person, so I believe that at some point someone told me an idea that I had was overdone or oversaturated, and I thought, "Well, I'm gonna prove you wrong." Again, the ego. And then I thought, and then it worked. My idea worked, and I was so excited because I was seeing the ripple effect of people making connections, and it was an idea to have the women's event, Mind, Body, and Soul. And I was getting so excited about asking people to be a part of this idea, and I found that most people already had a similar idea, they just didn't know where to start.
Right.
It was so great to have people say, "Yes, I want to be a part of that." And I loved that they were willing to help. So I get a pretty big high from
Yeah.
having an idea and then putting it into fruition and then bringing people together. I love the idea of community and connection.
I love that too. I hope that we can see more of it as we kind of move through this pandemic and things open up and there's more space for us to connect as a community in person because there's just something beautiful and tangible about that versus on a screen, you know, that human connection I think is going to be so powerful when we can do it again in a safe um, and protected way. But I look forward to those days. I think we're getting there. I think we're seeing more in-person events starting to get on the calendars, and we're kind of coming to life again around that. I sure hope that's the case. But
It's definitely happening. I see a lot of it. I see a lot of people gathering in outdoor events are really popular. I think people really want to be outdoors right now, and
mhm,
in Texas before it becomes a swamp,
yes, so
uh, hot and humid. But it just, I see that. I feel that people have a real appreciation for life again.
I love that. Are you meeting in person yet for your CNC collective meetings?
I, yes, as a matter of fact, I decided on a whim to do something this Thursday. um,
Ooh,
a lot of our local restaurants are hurting, and typically when I have events, it's usually at say a brokerage office or a private space. But I wanted to do something where people could give back to a local restaurant, and when I say they're hurting, it's they're actually hurting to staff. Um, because people aren't working right now.
mhm,
Without getting too much into it, it's people are receiving some help financially, right?
mhm.
So they don't have to work right now. But um, I see that a lot of restaurants aren't opening on specific days because they don't have enough staff.
Right.
So for now, the CNC Collective is going to be meeting at local coffee shops, at local restaurants, so that we can enjoy either a libation or a tea, coffee, or something off their menu, and help them to get some business.
I think that human connection is so important, and I know that that's what CNC is, right? It's community and connection, right?
Right.
So, so it makes sense. I'm so glad you're getting everyone back together to get more FaceTime and more interaction. But before we go, I'd love for you to share a tip. One thing that has really helped you overcome adversity. One thing that has really kind of helped you kind of keep going in times of in hard times and times of trouble.
Yeah, I'd say the biggest thing for me and something that everyone can apply to their life is that there's someone in your life that needs you. And it it doesn't have to be a spouse or a child. I mean,
Mhm.
but you will find that there is a group or a family member that just absolutely needs you to be the best version of yourself, to show up for yourself because they need that too. Again, it's a beautiful ripple effect. It's a gift to not only yourself, but to them. And at this time, if you feel alone, I'm willing to bet that if you were to make a list, that you would find that there are people who do love you unconditionally. And that's what I did for myself.
That's so huge.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for your time
Thank
today.
you.
You've been such a beautiful guest.
Thank you so much.
So, to my audience, thank you so much for joining us for this conversation. If you're in the Houston area and looking for a makeup artist, Amanda's your girl. If you're looking for a connection and networking and community, check out CNC Collective if you're out here in the Houston area. And to all of you, I hope that you have the courage to get up today and be your best self, whatever that looks like. Sometimes just getting up is that, being your best self. And sometimes you're just knocking it out of the park. But wherever you are, I hope today you just give yourself some grace, give yourself some love, and be the best person that you can be today. All right, we'll talk to y'all later. Love y'all.